order.
So I will. Thank you. Yes, now that the meeting is recorded, at this point, Earl was unable to join us this evening. So Rich was kind enough to step in and volunteer to do interim chair for this meeting, but we do need a motion to appoint or to ask him to be the interim chair for this meeting.
So
I
moved.
move that Rich Bradley be interim chair for tonight's meeting, February the 9th, 2022.
Thank you.
Second, Alderman Cone.
Wonderful. We have a first and a second. Michelle, can we have a roll call?
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Cone,
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Aye.
Commissioner Weber,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting aye.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, everyone. Rich, you are interim chair.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for February 9th, 2022. With that, I would ask if we could do a roll call, please.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Cone,
Present.
Commissioner Boaz,
Present.
Commissioner Peoples,
Present.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Present.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Chair Bradley.
Here we have a quorum. Our first order of business this evening would be the approval of our minutes from January the 12th, 2022. The only thing that I have on the minutes before I open it up for discussion is that I was shown as present and absent. And I know I'm pretty good, but I can't be in two places at once. I was absent, so if you would please make that adjustment. And then I would ask if any of the other commissioners have any questions, comments, or additions or subtractions they would request.
I move that the minutes from January the 12th be accepted as written with necessary corrections.
I second the motion.
Previous row.
Been moved and seconded properly and call for previous roll. Is there any objection to the use of previous roll? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Under our action items this evening, the first action item we will handle is PDA 004-22, which is a rezoning. And I believe
Thank
that
you,
that
Rich.
is Alexa.
Yes, it is. If you don't mind, I would just like to say a few things before we get started. First is that we have 4 rezoning items tonight. So this is the first time we're doing public hearings for these rezoning items per the legislation that went through late last year and was effective January 1st. So we're excited about this. This is going to be a great way for us to hear from the public in these public matters. But I just want to kind of note for anyone who's interested in speaking on behalf of the public hearing, please put in the chat your name and the item that you would like to speak on behalf of, and you'll be acknowledged when it's time for that item to be publicly heard. If you are on the phone, please listen carefully, and you'll be asked to speak up at the appropriate time, and you may need to press *6 to unmute yourself just so that we can hear you. Each individual will get 2 minutes to speak, so just a heads up. And just also to remind you all that these public hearings have been posted both on the site 15 days ahead of time and in the City Journal. And we've sent postcards additionally to the immediately adjacent property owners, and we've sent emails to the community organizations that we're aware of, making them aware of these public hearings. So we're doing our best to reach out to the public and let them know that these things are happening. So please do put both your name and the item that you would like to speak to. We will have staff presentation from PDA first, followed by a zoning staff presentation, and then a presentation from the petitioners. We will then do the public hearing and close the public hearing. And I think the smoothest way to do it is to have all the questions from the commissioners after all of the presentations and public hearing, and then do the action. So we'll go ahead in that order. If we want to go ahead as Rich said, take up the first item from Alexa. Alexa, we cannot hear you.
Oh, haven't spoken
There
yet.
we
Can you
go.
hear me now?
There we go.
Okay. So good evening, Planning Commission members. The first rezoning petition to review is just one parcel located in the Marine Villa neighborhood in the Benson Park National Historic District within the 9th Ward. The petitioners will provide a brief presentation later about their development plans for the site, which is mixed-use residential housing. The request this evening is to rezone the parcel from J Industrial to F Neighborhood Commercial. Next slide, please. Before we dive into the zoning and sloop conformance, I'd like to orient you as to the uses around the site, and this is the subject site that includes a vacant building to be renovated and part of this mixed-use residential development. And next slide. Yeah. A little more here. Okay. All right, here to the north, there's single-family housing. Next slide. To the west is multi-family residential housing, and as we continue down Miami Street, there's also multifamily residential housing. Next slide. South across the street is an auto repair shop that's facing Broadway. And then next slide. And east, there's vacant land and residential housing, and also east. Next slide. Oh, there we go. There's also a mix of residential and retail uses along South Broadway. The current site, again, is J Industrial, and the request is to zone to F Neighborhood Commercial. Next slide. The uses permitted at the site are auto-centric in nature and include those like auto sales. Meanwhile, residential uses are not permitted in the J district. By rezoning to F, auto-centric uses are not allowed and mixed-use residential development is permitted. Additionally, J allows for structures of 8-story to 100 feet in height, and F allows for 3 stories to 50 feet in height. Next, please. Given the request to rezone to F and the construction of residential development that's in character of the neighborhood existing housing stock, staff does find the rezoning request is in conformance with the Sloop's neighborhood preservation area. NPA encourages continued preservation and improvement with quality rehab and new infill construction that is sensitive to the character of existing residents and commercial institutions that cater to the immediate needs of the neighborhood. Next slide. So after review of the request in conformance with the Sloop, staff recommends approval of this proposed rezoning. We do have Mary on the line who will present next, and then also we have Brad Moore who's representing the petitioner on this rezoning request.
Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and or I'm sorry, Mr. Commissioner and Acting Commissioner. So this is a request to rezone property from the J Industrial District to the F Neighborhood Commercial District. The purpose of the rezoning is because it will have a residential component to it on the mixture of like 1-story and 2-story residential units, as well as some commercial.
Mary, you went on mute.
Sorry. As you know, in the J Industrial District, residential is not allowed. So the petitioner is requesting to rezone this to F. It makes sense with the current zoning map. It would provide a good buffer between the residential to the north of the site and the industrial zoning to the south of the site.
Great, thank you so much, Mary. If we could also next hear from the petitioner, I think that would be super helpful. Do we have a petitioner on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Oh, okay, so I'm Brad. Nice to meet y'all. You saw what it looks like now. So I got a couple plans here. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see it. That's kind of the concept drawing there
Okay,
of kind of what we plan on doing with the building. And the garage portion here, if you can see it, that is the existing garage that's there that we've already put some work into it. So that would be the 2,000 square foot restaurant, part of the project. And here's some of the kind of the exterior concept drawings of kind of what we're going to do with some wood, you know, finishes and metal. And then the it's going to be 10, looking at 10 residential units, 5 on the first floor, 5 up on the second story, and then on kind of a lofted area on that second story unit. So it goes almost 3 stories and then up rooftop decks. And then out front, kind of there's a view of it here. And then out on the front of the property on that, let me find the picture here. There's 2. So we've got green space on each unit, kind of outside patio for this restaurant area. Then in the very front on Miami Street, there's 2 800 square foot light, you know, commercial areas with green space and then parking in the middle. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. If we go to the next slide, I think we're set to do the public hearing. So if you're by Zoom, please post your name and item that you wish to speak to in the chat. Now would be the time. Brad, it looks like you have indicated that you would like to speak. After we make a motion to open the public hearing, and that goes through, then we'll ask each participant to state their name, their affiliation with the project or address, and if they are in favor, in opposition, or wish to comment.
I have to speak in the, or am I done?
That is up to you. If you would like to speak as part of the public hearing, you're more than welcome to.
I'm good. I think I'm.
Okay, great. Then
So.
we can go ahead and open the public hearing and see if there's anyone else who would like to participate.
I would like to request a motion to open the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second, previous row.
Thank you, Alderman. In previous role, is there any objection to use previous role? Being none, the public hearing is open. Cecilia?
Wonderful. It looks like we only had Brad, and he has asked not to be included in the public hearing in the chat. If anyone is on the phone and would like to speak up for this public hearing, please do so now. If you are on the phone, you may need to press *6 in order to unmute yourself. Hearing no one, I don't believe that there is anyone in person. Can someone at the podium confirm that?
Confirmed, no one's here in person.
Okay, then I think we do not have any other representation. We could close the public hearing.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that there was no one to speak at the public hearing this evening. I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Commissioner Pfeffer.
Second, Commissioner Boaz.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Previous row.
Request for
Thank you.
previous roll.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the use of previous role? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Cecilia, are we going to move on to the next item and do the same thing, or are we going to take action at this moment?
So first, I think it would be good if we could get any questions that the commissioners have on this item, and then it would be good to do go ahead and close this one out. I'll also note just that we are taking these petitions and we're taking them up in the order that they were received. If we get to a point where we do not have a quorum any longer, we can still continue to hold the public hearings as we have just done and do all the presentations, but we will not be able to take actions. If that does happen, we can take it up at a meeting later on.
Okay. So with that in mind, I will walk through and go person to person, commissioner to commissioner. See who has questions. Alderman Boyd, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question of the petitioner, will you be asking for any type of tax abatement, any other incentives for this particular project, or is we just gonna do zoning?
We've already applied for the NPA.
The NPA?
Yeah.
What's NPA?
What is that? We're working with Maureen McMillan on that.
Oh, you're talking about state historic tax credits?
We do our whole projects. We do the historic credits with Maureen on those. And then, am I not saying that right? The NPA?
That's neighborhood preservation?
Neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're working on that with her right now.
Well, I'm familiar with Maureen, and she does a phenomenal job with helping people with tax credits, state and federal tax credits. But my question is more so about tax abatement. And the only reason I'm asking is because it would have been very helpful in this presentation if we actually had the file for what you're trying to show us, instead of you just kind of putting it up to the camera. And I was just curious. And if so, if there's a board bill that's going to come before the Board of Aldermen, I just wanted to encourage you to make sure that we had that as part of the presentation. I mean, tonight is not necessarily, because this is basically a zoning hearing, and I'm good with the zoning, but as far as any type of incentives, I would probably want to really make sure that I get a good eye on the actual development.
Yes, so those are just preliminary drawings, and I had a Zoom meeting with Mary and Dan Gunther and a few other people, and I did email the PDF file on to Dan. So, but that's a preliminary drawing, and you know, if this all passes, we're going to go ahead and get the architect on it to get the final plans, and then I can get everybody a PDF file of that.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Alderman Cohn.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Boaz,
No questions.
Commissioner Peoples,
No questions.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
No questions, but it seems like a great project and glad that it doesn't seem to require city incentives.
Commissioner Weber,
Question.
and I have no questions as well. So thank you very much for your time this evening. So Cecilia, are we moving on with PDA 005?
We are actually good to take an action on PDA 004. I think we could have Alexa just go ahead and reaffirm for you guys what the recommendation is.
Thank you.
So again, after review of this request in conformance with the SLOOP, staff does recommend approval of this proposed rezoning.
I move for approval of PDA 004,
Second, Alderman Cohn.
previous row.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded for approval for the call for previous roll. Is there any objection to the use of previous roll? Seeing none, item PDA 004-22 rezone is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
We'll move on to the next item, which is PDA 005-22, and that's a rezone as well. And that will be handled by Jonathan, I believe.
Thank you. Good evening, Acting Chair Bradley and Planning Commissioners. This is a request for rezoning of one parcel in the Midtown neighborhood within the 17th Ward and within the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment area. The petition requests to rezone an existing commercial property from K unrestricted district to H area commercial, which would allow for a 7-story multifamily development. In addition, staff is asking the commission to consider a rezoning by initiation for one city-owned parcel adjacent to the site The property is a fire station. The use would remain unchanged, but to keep the zoning consistent, staff is asking the commission to consider these requests. Next slide. For your perspective, the aerial of the site is highlighted in blue. The site is located at the southeast corner of South Vandevender and Forest Park Avenue. Slide. Next, we will take a tour of the site and surrounding area, beginning on Forest Park Avenue, and we'll continue clockwise. Here's the current user, Crescent Electric, and the petitioner intends to demolish the existing building. Next slide. The property to the north across Forest Park Avenue is a recent multifamily development called The Standard. Next slide. And to the east is the Foundry Complex, which includes the Fresh Time Market grocery store. To the south is also the Foundry. You'll find the Foundry Phase 2 under construction. This might look familiar as the commission approved the rezoning to H in November of 2020. Next slide. And across Vandevender to the west is IKEA. Next slide. And here is the subject site where you have the fire station, Firehouse 29, which is the parcel by initiation. And that's located at the corner of Vandevender and Forest Park Avenue. Next slide. And as I mentioned before, the current properties are Zone K unrestricted, and the proposed zoning is H area commercial district, which flanks the subject site as shown in red. Next slide. And the uses that are currently permitted in K, but would not be allowed under H area commercial include, to name a few, auto-oriented uses, industrial, manufacturing, and open storage. The uses would be permitted under the uses that would be permitted under H, but not currently under K, include residential and mixed residential / commercial. The uses permitted under H would be more appropriate for the surrounding uses, which include multifamily, the Foundry, and IKEA. The strategic land use plan designates this area as specialty mixed use area, which calls for areas like downtown St. Louis, where is it intended that a unique and mix of uses be preserved and developed. The additional multifamily use, in this case, would complement the surrounding uses such as the grocery store, the Foundry, the IKEA, and other residential developments. And staff finds that this proposed use is in compliance with the sloop. In regards to the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan, the plan outlines desired uses as retail, hospitality, entertainment, and residential uses. Thus, staff finds the request in compliance with the St. Louis Midtown 353 plan. And finally, in review of the petition request, staff finds the proposed rezoning is in conformance with the sloop and the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan, and recommends approval of the request and initiation of the rezoning. And after this, we also have Mary Hart Burden, the zoning administrator, and the petitioners are on George Stock with Stock and Associates and Jason Lutz. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. As Jonathan said, this is a rezoning from the K unrestricted district to the H area commercial district. It does involve two parcels, the existing Crescent Electric site and then the fire station. The rezoning will have no impact to the fire station since its use is not going to change, and also because it's a governmental building, so it's a use by right, whether that site is zoned H or K. The petitioner's request is to rezone the property because in their presentation, they will talk a little bit more about their proposal for a 7-story multifamily complex. And as we know, residential is not allowed in the K district.
Thank you, Mary. It would be great to hear from the petitioner at this time. Mr. Lutz or Mr. Stock, can you please make yourself?
Yes, Mr. Orvdak, this is George Stock. How are you this evening? Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Terrific. Good evening, Acting Chairman Bradley, Alderman, and members of the commission. For the record, my name's George Stock, and I'm with Stock and Associates Consulting Engineers Incorporated. It's my pleasure tonight to present to you the Marshall, which is a proposed private student housing of 192 units, 509 beds. It's to be located at 3834 Forest Park Avenue. The site itself is 1.805 acres and currently Crescent Electric Supply. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Mary, for the great overview. Joining me this evening is the owner under contract and the developer, which is Aptitude St. Louis, Mr. Jared Hutter, Mr. Brian Rosen, Mr. Zach Feldman. They are available to answer questions. The presentation that I'll give will be brief. Also, our architect, Kitchen Associates, Mr. Jason Lutz, is available and will present as I do, and then we're all available to answer any questions. So the site, again, Jonathan and Mary did an excellent job. It's the southeast corner of Forest Park Avenue and Van Deventer Avenue. Station 21 is on the hard corner, and we surround it. This is the existing survey. You can see the building, the Crescent Electric. The site itself along Forest Park Avenue, we have approximately 280 feet of frontage. And then along the east property line, which abuts the Foundry or Fresh Time, we have 230 feet. And then across the south line in the east-west direction, we have 411 feet. And then frontage on Van Deventer Avenue, we have approximately 125 feet. Again, to the west is IKEA, to the north is the Standard, and then the Foundry is to the south and to the east. Our preliminary site plan basically has a footprint, Fathom footprint of the first floor. As Mary mentioned, this is a 7-story facility. We'll have a rendering that Jason will go over in a moment. But this Phantom or first floor plan outlines the surface parking. Vehicular access would be from Van Deventer. We have a proposed 24-foot wide curb cut. Pedestrian access would be fronting on Forest Park Avenue. And then we also have pedestrian access proposed along the south in order to make this very convenient with the Foundry. The site itself has some topographical relief. There's about 10 feet from the northeast corner to the southwest. The building or this level of garage will be partially submerged onto the site. All the utilities, adequate utilities and sewers are to the site, so it's well served in order to accommodate this development. Next slide is a rendering, and I will turn this to Jason to be able to speak. For some reason, the drawings are frozen. I apologize. Jason, are you there?
I am here. Yeah, I am here.
Yeah, I
Just waiting for the drawing to change over.
Are you able to share your screen with the drawings? For whatever reason, the rendering is not coming up on mine.
Why don't you try unsharing and then resharing? Sometimes that helps.
I don't know what's happening. It's locked up. I apologize for the technicality here.
I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen.
Cecilia, do you have it from me? I think I
do.
sent.
Give me just, shoot. Do not have the option.
Does Jonathan have it by chance? Because I know I forwarded.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this to work.
I'm forwarding it to you now.
Hey, give me one second. I might actually be able to share this. One
that
second.
Would be helpful.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion.
There it is. I think that's
Right.
Jason, I think I got it now.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So picking up where George left off, we're talking about a 7-story structure, mixed use, multifamily, purpose-built student housing directly across the street from the Standard at the corner of Forest Park and Van Deventer. The intent of the architecture is to contextually fit the all the progress that is happening currently in this area, sort of being sparked by the foundry, and to provide a contextual solution that solves an urban streetscape and engages that, while at the same time provides suitable housing that is longstanding in support of the universities that are there in St. Louis downtown and along Forest Park. So the materials that we're talking about are dense materials, mix of masonry as well as fiber cement. It's also some accents of wood look siding, a lot of glazing. On the first 2 floors of the plan, there is parking along with mixed use support amenities between clubhouse amenity features and stuff and such. And then on the 5 floors above are all apartment units. And on the 3rd floor, there's an interior courtyard that contains all outdoor amenities that would be in support of the project as well. So contextually, the architecture is a little progressive and modern contemporary, but suits and fits very well with the things that are coming behind it, not only at the foundry in the site directly behind us, but also I think some things that are more known that are happening throughout the city as part of all the redevelopment plans and areas. So we feel that this fits very, very well, and architecturally does a good job about finding place and creating place in a city that is starting to find and create more of an identity in a more modern contextual way.
So that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, George. I think at this point, it would be good to open the public hearing and see if we have anyone who would like to speak for this particular item.
Thank you, Cecilia. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second, Commissioner Boaz.
Previous row, Boyd.
I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing and a call for previous roll. Is there any objection to use previous roll? Seeing none, the public hearing is open. Cecilia, back to you.
Wonderful, absolutely. So first we'll take anyone who is on Zoom. Actually, if we can unshare the screen right now, that would be helpful, thank you. And then if we could pull up the public hearing presentation. If anyone would like to speak for this petition, please put your name in the chat and let us know. At this point, we have not seen anyone. So we'll go ahead and ask that if anyone is on the phone who would like to speak for this item, please speak up now. If you are on your phone and would like to unmute, you may need to press *6. Hearing no one and seeing no one put their name in the chat or speak up, Rich, I believe we do not have anyone who would like to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you. Let the record reflect that there was no one to speak at the public hearing. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to close public hearing.
So move, Boyd.
Second.
Previous row.
Thank you. Have a motion, a second, and call for previous roll to close the public hearing. Is there any objection to previous roll? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. And Cecilia, if you guys would wrap it up.
Yeah, I think at this point we could do any discussion and questions from the commissioners.
Great, great. Okay, I'll walk through each one. Alderman Boyd.
Yes, thank you. I just want to be clear. This site is directly across the street from the firehouse and diagonal from the current housing complex. Is that right?
It's actually,
That is correct.
the fire is right next to the firehouse.
I'm sorry?
It's right next to the firehouse.
Oh, it's on the same, okay. It's,
yes.
Oh, wait a minute, okay.
It basically wraps around it. So if you do
Okay.
see that small square
Yeah.
and we are actually recommending, in case it wasn't clear, we're recommending an initiation of the firehouse itself so that it is consistent with both the strategic land use plan, the existing use, and the surrounding zoning. So that is not part of the petition. That would be initiated by the planning commission. So that's why it's part of the subject site.
So it's just to the east of the firehouse.
I'm sorry?
Is it to the east of the, I'm trying to,
Yes, it's
Yes.
to the east and south of the firehouse,
okay,
between it and the foundry.
got you. And how many units is this again?
192 beds, or I'm sorry, 192 units, 509 beds.
And in this little square that I'm looking at, the parking and all of that is within that same square?
Alderman Boyd, the little square, that is the firehouse. So kind of the top left or the northwest corner, that's the firehouse. The 1.8 acres is the L shape.
I'm sorry.
So yeah. So we're that is. So the Crescent building is the white roof. That is the Crescent building. To the left, top left, that's the firehouse.
Okay.
So we'll have 2 levels of parking basically filling that L shape.
Gotcha. And the apartments are facing Forest Park, or is it facing, where's the front of the apartment building facing?
The front, the pedestrian access, the front is parallel facing north, or I'm sorry, Forest Park Avenue.
Okay, got you. And just to the, excuse me with my directions, is that be to the south of the firehouse? Is that all going to be parking?
Yeah, it'll be structured. It'll be 7 stories of structure. So the parking, Alderman Boyd, you won't see the parking. The parking will be interior within the structure. So, but the access, the driveway, the vehicle driveway to and from the garage will be from Van de Venter. So just south of the firehouse and north of what's the Foundry's drive, aligned with yeah.
Man, that's super cool. When you guys going to come over on the north side?
Get this one done first.
Yeah. I hear it all the time. I'm going to support it anyway.
Thank you.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Cone.
No questions.
Thank you. Alderman, Commissioner Boaz,
No questions.
Commissioner Peoples,
No questions.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
2 questions. One is about site control. Do you all currently own the site?
So this is Jared Hutter, one of the owners for Aptitude. We are in contract to purchase the site.
And who is the current owner?
It's Crescent Electric, the owner who they occupy the building today.
Got it. And then my second question is, this is in the SLU 353 geography, meaning that any tax abatement wouldn't come back before LCRA or the Board of Aldermen for approval. Are you currently planning to seek tax abatement?
At the present time, no.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Weber,
No question.
and I have no questions either. Cecilia, can you wrap it up?
Yes, actually, I'll ask Jonathan to go ahead and summarize.
Thank you, Chair. In review of the petition, the zoning request, staff finds the proposed rezoning is in conformity with the SLUP and the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan, and recommends approval and initiation of the rezoning of the city parcels.
Thank you, Jonathan. If there's no further discussion, I would ask, is there a motion we will entertain at this time?
I move to approve PDA 05-22, I believe, with a do pass recommendation.
Second, Alderman Cone.
Okay, we have a
Previous
motion to approve in a second and call for previous roll. Any objection to use the previous roll? Seeing none, the item passes. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
We'll now move on to PDA 006-22 rezone. And I will turn it over to you, Celia. Excuse me, Alexa.
All right, so next rezoning request is located in the Boulevard Heights neighborhood and consists of the two parcels outlined in black. At this time, there isn't a specific project development to review, but in order to do anything with the site, the two parcels that are outlined in black need to be consolidated with those that are outlined in yellow. Therefore, we have to be rezoned. The petitioner will discuss this a little later within their presentation. Next slide. These are the two surface parking lots to be rezoned, which actually served as parking space for a former Steak and Shake that's on the next slide. There's the Steak and Shake. The rezoning site is also located at the intersection of Gravois and Hampton, which contains other commercial uses such as the CVS across Germania and Gravois. Next slide, the metro station across Gravois and Hampton, Walgreens directly across the street on Gravois, River de Pere is next to the site. And then lastly, behind the subject site is residential housing. As you can see, the subject site is zoned A single family dwelling district, while the other two parcels are F neighborhood commercial. Example of the uses that are permitted in F but not in A are retail and commercial uses like floral shops, grocery stores, and butcher shops, as well as mixed use residential development. Next slide. By requesting to rezone to F, it will allow for the consolidation of these two parcels and better marketing for the site for redevelopment, which would be in conformance with the SLOOP's designation neighborhood commercial area, which encourages the development of new and rehabilitation of existing commercial uses that primarily serve adjacent neighborhoods. After review of the request in conformance with the SLOOP, staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning. We will hear next from our zoning administrator and also the petitioners, Lynn Gosling, representing the property owners, and also Alderperson Stevens.
Thanks, Alexa. So the site actually consists of 4 parcels, and 2 of the parcels are zoned F and 2 of the parcels are zoned A. The petitioner is proposing to rezone the 2 parcels that are A to F so that they can consolidate all 4 parcels and then market the site for some future commercial development. As you know, we do not allow parcels that are zoned differently to be consolidated. So that is the main request for the rezoning.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary. If the petitioner, Ms. Gosling, are you available to speak to the petitioners?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Cecilia, Alexa, Mary. Good evening, Acting Chair, Commissioners. Thanks for being with us this evening and listening to our presentation. As Alexa pointed out, I am here for the petitioner, which is the Dubinsky Family Trust. And to reiterate, the request is to rezone these 2 parcels, 4854 Germania and 7360 Gravois, from their current A single family zoning to the zoning, which would be F neighborhood commercial, which is the zoning of the 2 parcels on which the restaurant is actually Steak and Shake used to be located on. Alexa gave a good overview of the site. The site is generally located at the intersection of Gravois and Germania, and it has been operated or was operated as a Steak and Shake for as far back as I think any of us can remember. We couldn't, in digging through this, we couldn't pinpoint the exact date, but I can tell you for sure that it was prior to 1962 because my parents actually met on this very parking lot as the original Steak and Shake. So it has been there at least that long. Unfortunately, Steak and Shake closed in 2020, and it is now a vacant parcel. We had been working to look at redevelopment options for the site, and in the course of that, discovered that these 2 parcels were still zoned single family, which of course, as Mary pointed out, is quite a conundrum because you really can't do anything commercial on the site when you have 2 of the parcels that are still zoned for single family use. So that's why we're here this evening. After consulting with the city zoning and planning departments and going over all of this, I think everybody determined that zoning best practices called for cleaning up the zoning and consolidating this all into one parcel that could be marketed for redevelopment. We believe that the rezoning is appropriate, obviously, under the circumstances. This is a vacant, underutilized site right now at a major intersection. As Alexa pointed out, we've got CVS is right across the street. To the north, to the east is the Walgreens. To the west is River de Pear, and I believe some multifamily housing on the other side of that. And then we have single family residential just directly to the south of the site. You know, obviously being a vacant site on a major intersection, rezoning this would provide an opportunity for new commercial development that would be beneficial to the adjacent residential area. It is obviously consistent with the historic commercial use of the site, as well as the city's strategic land use plan. We engaged with Alderman Stevens and the Boulevard Heights neighborhood throughout the process, and they have indicated their support. Alderman Stevens is here with us this evening, and I believe that he is going to fill you in on that in a little bit. But really, in sum, we're looking to clean this up. The owner really can't do anything with it. They do intend to continue owning the site. Therefore, we respectfully request that you consider rezoning these F. And please keep in mind that we are not asking for the approval of any specific use tonight. Any development, redevelopment of this property going forward would need to go through the normal approval channels. So we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. With that, I will turn it over to Alderman Stevens if he is available.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Actually, if you don't mind, it would be really helpful if we could go ahead and just open the public hearing and ask you to speak in that. Is that okay? Great.
Great. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to open a public hearing, please.
So moved. Alderman Cone.
Second.
Previous row.
And motion second to open public hearing, call for use of previous roll. Any objection to the use of previous roll? Okay, public hearing is open. Cecilia, back to you.
Beautiful. Thank you. It does look like we do have one person, Alderman Stevens, speaking in support of this item. So I'll go ahead and ask you to go ahead and unmute and tell us what your thoughts are.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Planning Commission and Commissioners, Ms. Cecilia, for allowing me to speak tonight. I am, as the 12th Ward Alderman, in support of this rezoning initiative petition, as is the Boulevard Heights Improvement Association. As Ms. Gessling said, they've been in constant communication with us, both the neighborhood organization and myself throughout this entire process. And additionally, I would like to extend the tentative approval of the Princeton Heights Neighborhood Association as well, who isn't currently meeting. They're currently on recess for all intents and purposes, but they are also eager to see the property utilized and kept commercial. So with that, I yield back, Ms. Cecilia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It looks like we don't have anyone else in the chat who would like to speak on this petition. So we'll just say if anyone would like to speak who is on the phone, we'll give them a second to unmute. You may need to press *6 to do so. Having an awkward silence, I believe that indicates we do not have anyone else who would like to speak on this item. So we can go ahead and close the public hearing and have discussion.
You at this time, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
You have a motion and second. We'll call for previous roll, close the public hearing. Is there any objection to use of previous roll? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. And with this time, we will go through questions and answers from the commissioners. So I will start with Alderman Boyd.
Thank you, Chairman. Because I'm not that familiar with that particular location, and Steak and Shake is one of the places that I like to frequent back in the day, make great food, hamburgers. I'm curious as to what is currently at that location now that we are rezoning.
So
At the moment, At the moment, it is, the site that we're technically rezoning is the parking lot surrounding the Steak and Shake.
So it's the parking lot for the Steak and Shake. So out of curiosity, so technically somebody could build something commercial, a restaurant on the location where the Steak and Shake is and have parking on the current location. Is that correct?
No, I would say that the policy is that in order to use that parking, it is just a very old site. So that is an outdated, that happened at this point, and Mary can speak more to this, but if they're looking to use the parking lot, they would want to consolidate those parcels. And in order to consolidate, they all need to be zoned the same. But Mary, do you have anything else to add?
Thank you, Cecilia. Alderman Boyd, we aren't able to determine how this happened, but it shouldn't have. A long time ago, when the Steak and Shake was originally built, they should have consolidated all the parcels at that time. Because Steak and Shake was there for a long time, it never became an issue. And then all of a sudden the Steak and Shake went away, and now they would like to market this for new development. And that's when we discovered that, you know, the parcels had different zonings and that the zoning needed to be cleaned up so that they could consolidate. Right now, if someone wanted to go in there, it would be very hard to review it under the zoning code because the parcel with the restaurant is zoned one zoning, the parcel with the parking lot is zoned another zoning. So there wouldn't be any way to do it without a multitude of variances on the different lots. It just makes it cleaner for everyone. Also, in the event that for the new development, they would need some sort of letter for their finance or their title company, I think they would review a letter where the parcel being all zoned the same and consolidated would make them happier than a letter that talks about 4 different parcels with different zonings.
Yeah, and I certainly would agree with that, absolutely. But I'm just kind of curious as to, so what is the current zoning of what we're trying to change right now?
So 2 parcels are zoned F and 2 parcels are zoned A. And we're trying to change the 2 parcels that are A single family to F so that all of the parcels are zoned commercial and they can consolidate it. F, neighborhood commercial district, is our most restrictive commercial district. And it's what the majority of the parcels at that intersection are already zoned.
So the current Steak and Shake is F.
Part of it is, part of it's A. I can't explain to you what happened in the 60s. I wasn't here. I can tell you that if someone came in today, they couldn't develop that site until it's rezoned, unless they were a single family home.
Mary, I understand, you know, so I'm looking at Germania and so what's the cross street at that corner? I'm looking outside the black box.
That would be
So
Gravois.
Germania and Gravois.
Gravois, I'll say. So what is that zone, that corner right there? Yeah, purple, pink, whatever. What is that
That's
zone?
F neighborhood commercial district.
So that's F neighborhood commercial district, F. And we want to create the yellow F commercial district. Is that?
Yes.
My understanding? Now, Mary, let me ask you this. Why wouldn't we just do it G commercial and office district?
The G commercial and office district is a more intense commercial district. We went with the F commercial district because 2 of the parcels are already zoned that, and 2 of the other corners at that intersection are already zoned F. So it was consistent with the surrounding zoning in that area. Right now, we don't have a proposal as far as a use. So it's probably a safer route to go to rezone that to F.
Okay, and so I can, to a point, I can understand that. But if we went to a G, wouldn't, So help me if I'm wrong, Mary, because I'm coachable and teachable. If it's F, sometimes depending on what you want to do, you have to ask for a conditional use in an F district.
Yes.
Versus if you're in a G district, it's already commercial, so you can kind of just do what you need to do without asking for a conditional use.
If I could also just go ahead and add, we did review the request and have these discussions with the developer around the potential for redevelopment and what they might see happening on this site, and came to the conclusion that F would be an appropriate district. Also, we looked at the strategic land use plan, which designates the site as neighborhood preservation area. Because it is so close to those single family homes, and the river, it's helpful to keep it at a less intense use. And allow for those conditional uses to take place so that they can be respectful of those sensitive uses.
So, and Alderman Stevens is big time in support of this. I'm just not sure why I want to support him in this. I'm just kidding. I'm good. I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman
Those are
Cone.
my questions.
Alderman Cone.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just curious, Alderman Stevens, I know you indicated that some of the neighborhood organizations are supportive of the proposal here. Since we're talking about the adjacent single family households, are they aware of it? Are they supportive of it? Because they would be the ones that are directly impacted by any potential future development. So I'm just curious if you heard from them or if you've had any conversations with them and what their input to the process is, if there is any.
Yes, thank you, Alderman Cone, for the question. And indeed, throughout the entirety of the time that the spot hasn't been used since the Steak and Shake originally shut down, you could draw a radius point radiating from the Steak and Shake to the surrounding neighborhoods, not just the immediately adjacent homes, but the surrounding blocks, even on the other side of River to Pear, with constituents across all demographics being very concerned with having the empty lot, not only for economic purposes, but for public safety purposes and others. And that's why I spoke to the Princeton Heights Neighborhood Association, which is directly across the street where that Walgreens is. So Gravois serves as the neighborhood border. They're also in support because, again, being within the general area, everyone wants something to go in there. I've even had constituents asking me, hey, Bill, what's going on with the rezoning and so on and so forth. And that's the only time I've ever had a constituent even use the term zoning. So the immediate houses, as in the ones directly adjacent to the parcel, those are, or the zones in question rather, those are rented. So it to get them down, but the houses further down the line, there's a small handful of them before we hit a green space. They are eager for something, anything to go in. And we're in support of even the medical marijuana facility going in, if you recall that from several months ago, if only because it filled the spot. So if
I could also, chime in and remind everyone that since we are taking the public hearings here at the Planning Commission, as a matter of policy, we have started sending postcards to the immediately adjacent property owners, letting them know of this request and of the public hearing. So we have, tried to reach out in that way as well.
Great. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Boaz.
No questions.
Commissioner Peoples.
No questions.
Commissioner Pfeffer.
No questions.
Commissioner Weber.
No questions.
And I have no questions as well. So Alexa, would you wrap us up, please?
After review of the request in conformance with the SLOOP, staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation for approval. If there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion from the commissioners.
So moved to accept the recommendation of staff.
Second.
Cone.
No, I second Boyd.
Previous roll.
I have a motion and a second to the second and the call for previous roll. There's no objections to previous roll. Seeing none, the item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will note, I think we're going to lose our quorum here, so we can still go ahead and continue with the presentations and the public hearing, but we will not be able to take an action on the vote unless we resume with a quorum. So we'll go ahead and assume that we will not. You are able to stay, Alderman.
Alderman. This is Alderman Coe. I think the issue of a quorum is because I need to drop off. I can stay on for a little while longer
Okay.
if necessary.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. So we can go ahead and move on forward.
With that in mind, we'll try to be timely on this. It is the OOPDA 007-22 rezone, and that will be Andrea.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, planning commissioners and everyone. Tonight I'm presenting the final resolution for rezoning. The resolution covers a 3-parcel area totaling approximately 5.48 acres in the Midtown neighborhood in the 19th Ward. The petitioner is Kevin Morrell of Envisage Properties and Green Street 2900 Investors. The site currently consists of an office and warehouse building and is directly to the west of the Grand Metro Link Station. At this time, the petitioners plan to develop multifamily residential on the site. In addition, staff recommends rezoning 3 adjacent city-owned parcels totaling approximately 0.22 acres used as right-of-way. The petition is to rezone all parcels from K unrestricted to H area commercial. Next, I'll orient you to the site and adjacent properties. First, an aerial of the rezoning area. The area is bound by I-64 to the north, Scott Avenue to the south, Prospect Avenue to the west, and Grand Boulevard to the east. The Grand Boulevard Metrolink station is to the east side of the site. If you take note of the locator map, this is looking west toward the site. Okay, and then here's looking east from the Grand Overpass. Here we're looking north on Prospect Avenue, and from the same spot looking south. Finally, here we are at the south of the site looking east on Scott Avenue, showing the Metrolink station. As I said, the petition is to rezone from K unrestricted to H area commercial. And some of the uses allowed or conditional in K unrestricted, but not in H area commercial would be listed there: cement manufacturing, fireworks, auto sales, leasing, repair, among others. Uses not allowed in the K district, but permitted in the H area commercial district include mixed residential and commercial uses. Both the K unrestricted district and the H area commercial district allow up to 8 stories or 100 feet in height. Therefore, the request does not allow for any changes to the height regulations. The city's strategic land use plan designates the rezoning area as an opportunity area, which are key underutilized locations where land use is in transition. These sites offer particular challenges and opportunities, and this designation is intended to be flexible. The rezoning request is in compliance with the strategic land use plan. The rezoning site is also within the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan within Action Area 3, which focuses on proximity to the Grand Metrolink station, the rebuilt Grand Boulevard Bridge, and the proposed Great Rivers Greenway system, which will support opportunity to redevelop this area for more mixed-use transit-oriented development. Any development along Grand Boulevard should help create an enhanced physical and activity bridge between I-64 and Shoto Avenue. The rezoning request is in compliance with the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan. And so after review, staff finds the proposed rezoning request and initiation of rezoning in conformity with both the strategic land use plan and the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan, and recommends approval of the proposed rezoning request. Now we'll hear from the zoning administrator and the petitioner.
Thank you, Andrea. So this site consists of 6 parcels altogether. All of the parcels are zoned K. There is a proposal for a residential multifamily development on the site. And as we know, the K unrestricted district does not allow for residential. So the petitioner is seeking the H area commercial district. We've seen a lot of property in the last couple of years in this area change from those industrial designations to the H area district. So we found this to be appropriate with the surrounding zoning.
Thank you, Mary. If we could go ahead, this would be a great time for the petitioner to provide their presentation. I believe you're on mute. I can.
Good evening, Planning Commission members. If it's okay, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can you tell us your name as well, please?
My name is Bryce Zicker. I'm Director of Operations with HDA Architects. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Some of you may be familiar with some of these images, but the first image we're looking at is from the intersection of Grand Avenue and I-64, looking to the southwest. Some of the features of the proposed development, working from left to right, would be a phase 1 residential building, which consists of a parking garage with 10 levels of multifamily residential on top of it. Proceeding to the west, we see a phase 2 tower. These towers are linked by a driveway across a proposed extension of Market Street, which would bisect 2 buildings. The main entry or approach to the phase 1 development would be directly off of Grand Avenue via this bridge. You can't see it in this view, but just underneath and beyond that part of the building is the main entry lobby and drop off, as well as a parking ramp access to the lower levels of the garage. Finally, as part of the proposed overall development would be the development of a plaza just east of the existing Armory building. This is another view of the same development. This is more from a pedestrian point of view along Grand Avenue. Some of the materials you may be seeing on the buildings are a combination of a metal panel product and either a masonry or terracotta product, sort of alluding to the cladding of the Armory building to the west. This is a conceptual site plan. It shows the location of the 2 phased buildings, along with indication of the parcel lines as they are now. And these are just some more developed floor plans starting at the grade level. This would be the parking garage entrance off of Market, a loading dock off of Scott, and building support services. Going up through a couple more levels of parking garage until you get to the 4th level, the amenity level. And here you see the bridge link to Grand Avenue. As you approach in, there's a vehicle turnaround drop off and then back out to Grand. the garage or the ramp to the parking garage is along this area. The area in gold would be the common amenity spaces. There's an outdoor amenity space with a swimming pool as well. Onto a typical residential floor. It's a combination of studio, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments, some with balconies, some without. At the top level, there is another enclosed amenity space for the residents. Just some more imagery here. You get better views of what the pool space would actually look like. And we're beginning to suggest some possible exterior materials. Nothing's really been finalized as of yet, but this gives you a better idea of how the building is accessed from Grand, looking at various viewpoints. We understand that a connection to the plaza is important, so we've included this ornamental stair at one end of the building. Just different elevation views, building section view. So as you may be asking right now, the building is over 100 feet, but within the H zoning, there is a provision to exceed that height if you increase the building or the setbacks from the property line. And that's something we would need to work out and continue to work with Mary's department on. And this is just a snapshot of some of the different kinds of dwelling units. That concludes my presentation of the development. I guess I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much. We will actually move into the public hearing at this time.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to open a public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Thank you. I have a motion, a second, a call for previous roll, open a public hearing. Is there any objection to the use of previous roll? Seeing none, public hearing is open.
Beautiful. So we'll go ahead and take anyone who's on Zoom first. If you would like to speak to the public hearing, now is the time to please let us know. Seeing that there is no one named in the chat and that there's no raised hands or no one has unmuted to speak, we'll go ahead and go to phone. If anyone's on the phone who would like to speak, now is the time to unmute. You may need to press *6 in order to do so. Hearing none at this time, it seems that we do not have anyone who is speaking on behalf of or for this particular item. So I think we're good to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Let the record reflect that no one was present this evening to speak at the public hearing. With that, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a call for previous roll? Is there a call for previous roll?
Previous roll.
Thank you. A motion, a second, call for previous roll, close public hearing. Is there any objection to use the previous roll? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. We will move to questions from the commissioners. We'll start with Alderman Boyd.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask the petitioner, so we're rezoning this, but it sounded like he said that they will be coming back to the zoning commission to rezone for something. I was kind of confused.
So I think what he was saying was that there's a particular provision in the zoning code that allows for some variation on the height based on setbacks of the building. So they're still working through some of the design details, and they'll work through those items with Mary on an individual basis. If at some point they cannot meet the exact letter of the code, they may appear before the Board of Adjustment for a variance, but there would be no rezoning request. We've worked very closely with the developer to make sure that the rezoning request is appropriate.
Okay, Cecilia, I guess I just want to do things one time. Mm-hmm. And so what do we need to do whereby they don't have to come back to Board of Adjustment? Because, there's no guarantee if you come to the Board of Adjustment that you're going to be granted that adjustment, if you will. And so that might cause a problem for a development. So if we already know that there's a development in the works, why don't we just do it all at one time instead of a two-step, if you will?
I'll go ahead and pass it over to Mary if she wants to speak to the specifics of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. So Alderman Boyd, we try very hard when we're doing rezonings to, find a rezoning classification that fits with the land use plan, fits with the existing zoning, and doesn't cause the person to have to come back for a variance. But I am dealing with the zoning code that was written in the 50s. So saying that, oftentimes we do find ourselves having to go to the Board of Adjustment even after a rezoning. It would be nice to have a new zoning code that was more up to date and allowed for more density, but we have what we have on the books. And so we just try to work with developers as much as possible. It isn't unusual for people to come for a rezoning for the use and then still end up at the Board of Adjustment because they need an area variance.
Sure, and I understand that, and I can certainly appreciate that, but we may be faced with a scenario whereby we have a current developer and something happens between now and 24 months from now, and then they transition to a different developer. And why would we not want to make sure that we have a zoning whereby you wouldn't have to be concerned about, because if I'm a developer and I want to come in St. Louis and I want to do this particular project, I have to be concerned about a two-step. We're going to do this. We may approve this zoning today, but then, 8 months, 12 months from now, a new developer comes on and then they have to go before the Board of Adjustment, and the Board of Adjustment may not be interested in what they're trying to do. And so it makes it hard for an owner to sell property when there's the unknown, if you will. So why wouldn't we want to just zone it the way we need to zone it to cover the what ifs, if you will?
So right now, there's nothing we can rezone this to that resolves their height problem for them.
Okay.
I just don't have any other answer for you than that. To rezone this to a district that will allow for the residential, there may still be a height issue with that. The good thing, though, is the same legislation that brings the public hearing to the Planning Commission is also legislation that has now allowed for the PDA staff to weigh in at the Board of Adjustment. So I think that a project that is supported at the Planning Commission and then still has to go to the Board of Adjustment would most likely receive a letter from the PDA staff that would speak to that support also. So I think that the Board of Adjustment would get some good information. I don't think we have to be too concerned about something having its rezoning granted and then not being able to get a variance.
Well, I hate to be pessimistic, but I don't trust government because it depends on what alderman is there and what administration is there. And so why couldn't we approve? I don't know. I'm just thinking if there's a height variation, that's an issue. Why couldn't we solve that now, for example, so that we don't have to go to the Board of Adjustment and get it done in one step versus potentially, and I'm saying we may have to go to Board of Adjustment. I understand that, but why wouldn't we want to do it now where we don't have to come back to the Board of, we don't have to go to the Board of Adjustment in order to make a development happen?
I would just note that I think, sorry, if I could just add, I think it's an element of the way that our zoning code is built and structured. It would require a zoning rewrite to really kind of reinvent the way that we do zoning here in the city of St. Louis. We have the way that we're structured, we have a cumulative zoning, and as you go up in the alphabet, you get fewer restrictions, and part of that is height. So at this point, there's just no zoning that encapsulates all of their needs. that we could recommend changing this to. And we can't tailor that each zoning district because of the way it's done. It's an umbrella policy. So we would need to do a zoning code rewrite in order to kind of make those individual changes applicable.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Alderman Cone.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm currently standing outside of a neighborhood meeting, so on a very busy street, so forgive me if there's background noise here. So I am curious about the egress off of Grand. You know, that's a pretty busy street as it is at the moment, and there's medians in the middle of the kind of causeway / bridge area over there. Is it anticipated that people are not supposed to make a left-hand turn into this development when they're going northbound on Grand? Because I can tell you that that is not a realistic expectation. So, which is going to cause a bunch of accidents in the middle of Grand right before people get to Highway 64, which is an extremely dangerous intersection. Because you've got not just the interstate there, but then you also just about a half a block north have Forest Park Parkway, which is also a very dangerous intersection, and very confusing, frankly, with all of the signals over there as it is. And, you know, as someone that drives and rides their bike around that area fairly regularly, I'm concerned about that entry off of Grand and the way it's designed.
So the intent on the entry off of Grand is that it's right in and right out, so that there would be no left turns being made across Grand to get into the property. As I pointed out in one of the, I'm sorry,
unless you're extending that median northward, that's not a realistic expectation. People will literally stop at a double yellow line trying to make a left-hand turn into a right-hand turn only entrance right there. I can promise you without any hesitation that will happen, and it will cause accidents and delays for people getting all around town, getting to the hospital that's just, you know, 2 blocks south of there. It's an extremely dangerous intersection already. So, you know, the only way that you would prevent that is by extending that median further out, further northward. And even then you're going to end up with people making U-hand turns there as well, U-turns. But it would still be safer than people just, you know, stopping in the middle of Grant to make a left-hand turn into a right-hand turn only entrance. I see how you have that design. I don't think it's going to work the way that it's designed, knowing the drivers in this city.
I definitely think I appreciate that, you know, that context and your perspective on that, Alderman Cohn. If I could just note that obviously, and I know you know that this is the rezoning request will not cause for approval of what they're showing in the drawings right now. There's my understanding is that there's a lot.
For a number of years, and that this is about the zoning of it and not the design of it. I get that, but they're here. I'm present. I'm also on a couple committees as well. I want them to get the feedback. Yeah. So
absolutely. I just want to make that clear for the public who may not be aware that that's the case, depending, you know, whatever the action is at the end of the day. But my understanding, and Scott, I don't know if you can speak to this a little bit more specifically, but my understanding is that there's a lot of discussions going on about the configuration of access for this site, and nothing has been decided at this point. Scott's kind of our back of the cameraman, and I think he might have a little bit more information, but maybe not. Scott?
Cecilia, you saying Stock or Scott? This is George
Scott
Stock.
Scott Ogilvy. He's coming to the podium now.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, Cecilia. Scott Ogilvy, City of St. Louis Planning and Urban Design Agency. I think to Cecilia's question, what I would say is that there's definitely a lot of active planning within this area. Some of it led by developers, some of it led by Great Rivers Greenway as part of the Brickline Greenway plan. And there's a lot of careful considerations of how to cross the highway on the Brickline. And these developments, both these developments that are adjacent to the Armory here and Foundry north of I-64 are very much a part and very much included and integral in that planning process. It's hard for me to speak on access to this proposed development specifically because I have not been specifically involved in this one. But I do think, just speaking more generally, because of the access from the bridge, anything that's proposed here is going to have to be carefully vetted by the Board of Public Service. So perhaps Rich has, Mr. Bradley has comments on that.
Yeah, I would just say that before an entrance like that is approved, you know, I share the concerns of Alderman Cohen. I would share the concerns of how it's tied into the bridge, streets, traffic. There would be a traffic study. There would be a lot of consideration before that actually happened the way it's shown there. But duly noted, Alderman Cohen, that is a legitimate concern.
I appreciate it. I just, as someone who has witnessed my fair share of accidents at, you know, Forest Park Expressway and the 64, 40 on ramp at Grand and, that intersection in particular, it's extremely hazardous. And I would hate to throw in yet another curb cut egress into another busy development into the mix there, especially when we are trying to create a more pedestrian cycle friendly area right there with the Brickline Greenway. So just another consideration. But other than that, I am curious about, thank you, Scott, thank you, Cecilia. So with the development, I saw that you had 1 and 2 bedroom units. Can you give me the percentage of each as a whole within the project? And then also, why aren't you doing any 3 bedrooms?
Sure, I can give you the percentage of each. So there was a market study done, and it did not produce any demand or need for 3 bedrooms. Right now we've got about 100 we'll call studio units. Which is about 37% of the mix. 18 2 bedrooms, which is about 6% of the mix, and then the bulk of it would be 1 bedroom dwelling units.
Okay, can you run that by me again? 30% are studio.
Okay, so 37% studios.
So do the studios have a full kitchen in them, or are they just kind of a galley kitchen?
I can show you the studio unit. So here's a typical studio unit. We've got the galley kitchen along one side, a bedroom with a sliding door, and the living area out here. Are you seeing that? So the 1 bedrooms come to about 55%. And the 2 bedrooms would be the difference of that.
Okay, so there's not even very many, because it sounds as maybe like 10% of it is about 2 bedroom units.
Now, what I will tell you is, since these documents were put together back in September, we had been in conjunction with the developer working on the unit mix to get a more desirable mix from a financial standpoint. The main mechanism for doing that is decreasing the number of studios and increasing the number of 2 bedrooms by a certain amount. So we are in development for revision of the dwelling unit mix beyond what I'm showing you here.
So is part of that including any 3-bedroom units at all? Because I who did your study, out of curiosity?
I don't have that in front of me, but no, the demand study did not call for any 3 bedrooms or recommend any.
I mean, I have a concern, and this isn't necessarily directed towards you or this development, but as a whole, it really does seem as though we're trying to keep families out of our central corridor. Most of these apartment developments that are going on over there only have 1 and 2 bedroom units, unless you have a high rise in the Central West End that has a 3-bedroom unit that rents for $5,000 to $7,500 a month, which is completely unattainable for most families. So it's really a challenge for me, when we continually build these things, with supposed market studies saying that there's not when there's plenty of families in St. Louis City who would be more than happy to have a quality apartment close to public transit, close to amenities, etc. If you're able to forward me a copy of the market study, I'd be interested in reviewing that. I know you don't have it in front of you currently, but that would certainly be of interest for me. I'm not sure if it would be of interest for other members of the committee or commission here. And then lastly, gosh, what was the last thing that I had a question about? I believe it, it's kind of 2-part. One is I observe that there's no commercial space, there's just amenity space in this development. I do seem to recall several months ago there was the discussion of commercial tenants in this development that were rumored to be going in there. I know Target's going in across the street, but is that something that you all have looked into? Is that's possible on the horizon to kind of set that the issue of parking?
You were kind of breaking up there at the end. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, so the second part to the question is, if that becomes a possible opportunity in the future, the situation with parking.
The inclusion of a commercial area has been discussed. We haven't finalized anything as to what it might be. If that were to happen, possibly there's some surface parking that might be able to deal with something like that.
Okay, I guess that's kind of where my question / concern was heading, because we are trying to go to more multimodal oriented options, particularly in the central core, and surface parking lots obviously don't add a heck of a lot of value to developments aside from having a car sit there. But we are trying to encourage people to use our public transit, to use the metro, the bike, and the central corridor in particular. We're spending tens of millions of dollars on infrastructure to that extent. So, and Mary, I know that that's in our zoning code, if I recall correctly, that we might need to take a look at some point in time. But anyways, I've kind of probably exhausted my time here and some of my colleagues on the commission. So I'll hold any other questions for another time, but appreciate your responses to the ones that I had this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and insight.
Thank you, Commissioner Boaz.
No further questions.
Commissioner Peoples,
No questions.
Commissioner Pfeffer.
Hey, good evening. A few questions. This is a huge, impressive project. I appreciate the density that would bring and the opportunity for transit-oriented development. Would also echo some of the comments of Commissioner Cohn in calling for a more diverse unit mix, and in particular, some larger family units. A quick question with respect to the amenities contemplated for this project. Has there been any discussion of potentially including an early childcare facility as part of this development?
There has currently or presently not been any discussion of something like that.
All right, thank you. And then moving on, this is another project that is in the SLU 353 geography, meaning that incentives could be awarded without much additional public process, without LCRA or Board of Aldermen approval. I'm not going to ask whether you're seeking incentives, as I know you are, and there are ongoing conversations regarding these, and I don't want to get too deep into those as this is a zoning meeting. I do think that the public, though, deserves answers to the following three questions. And that is, especially if an incentive may be awarded. And that is, first, why does this project meet the but-for test? By which I mean, to be clear, why doesn't this project work if you pay the property taxes associated with this development?
I would like to answer your question, but as the architect, those items are outside of my purview at this time.
Is there anyone on the call who could answer that question?
I don't believe we have a representative of the development team on the call who could answer that question.
All right. My second question then doesn't apply, but you may be also able to answer the third question, which is, can you speak to the community benefits associated with this project, specifically with respect to affordable housing or workforce housing?
I cannot speak to that benefit at this time. At this time, there are no affordable apartment dwelling units planned for this development.
All right, thank you. There are further conversations going on, but I know that that is not necessarily germane to this meeting, but thank you.
If I could, sorry, I just want to step in and let you all know that there is also another public hearing that will take place at the HUD's Committee of the Board of Aldermen. So that may also be an opportunity for the petitioner to bring all of the appropriate people to answer some of those questions.
Good point, Cecilia. Thank you.
Commissioner Weber?
Yes, I'd just like to hear the architect tell me that he's heard the concerns about the park, about the entrance and exit on the Grand, and that they will make a concerted effort to look into that.
Yes, I've heard everyone's concerns on this issue, and we will make a concerted effort and come to a design solution that looks out for the public health, safety, and welfare.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Andrea, can you wrap us up?
Yes, thank you everyone for your comments. Again, after review, staff finds the proposed rezoning request is in conformity with the strategic land use plan, as well as the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan, and recommends approval of the proposed rezoning request in addition to the initiated 3 city-owned parcels.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a recommendation for approval. At this time, I'll entertain a motion from the commission.
So move to accept the recommendation of staff.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Roll call.
Thank you. Can you call?
Alderman Boyd,
Pass.
Alderman Cone,
Pass.
Commissioner Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Pass.
Commissioner Weber,
Before I say, is pass like abstaining?
No, you come back around for another vote.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. Aye.
Chair Bradley,
Aye.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Cone,
Present.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Present.
and the motion passes with 4 voting aye and 3 abstentions.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, with the secretary, repeat that, please. I'm not sure there were abstention votes. I heard present.
Correct.
There were 3 presents and 4 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we have no further action items for this evening. Before we adjourn, I will ask if there's any comments from any of the PDA staff.
No other comments. Thank you all for your patience. I know that this has been a long meeting and we appreciate that, that you all stuck with us and were very attentive. The one thing that I would have liked to say at the beginning, but we were rushing, was we do have 2 new staff people who are in the room with you tonight. Andrea, who you just spoke, who you just met, she came to us recently in the last month and a half or so from Wash U. And has started kind of diving into the municipal side of work. Her background is more of sustainability and environmental planning. And so we're looking forward to having her perspective on staff. And then Tyler Wilson, I'm not sure if he's still there, but he is our new our new urban designer. Hi. And he has been with us for the same time as Andrea. And so he's going to start being able to give us some more capacity around, the graphics that we're able to share with you guys and presentations and things like that. So we're excited about that. And other than that, though, I appreciate all of your time and patience and look forward to seeing you guys again next month.
Thank you, Cecilia. If there's no further business, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
I'm sorry. Hello?
Yes.
I wanted to make a comment. I wanted to congratulate Cecilia for a well-run meeting tonight. Everybody is used to Don Rowe being present. I think she did an exceptional job tonight with keeping us on track. I just want to recognize her for that as a staff member. Oftentimes we don't recognize staff for the great work that they do. And I just wanted to celebrate her tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments before we adjourn? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned. Everybody have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you for your time.
Good night.